Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and we are also joined today by my colleague Mariana, and we are here representing the CleanBC Community Energy Coach program. Our program supports communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of the CleanBC rebate programs and the education of heat pumps, bringing us here today to learn more about heat pumps and all of the various incentives available. We will be sharing a number of different resources on heat pumps and rebates. So just keep in mind this webinar is being recorded, and all of the rebate amounts that we are talking about today are reflective of what is available today, Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. So if you are watching at a later date, definitely check out the provincial website, betterhomesbc.ca, for the most up-to-date information. I encourage you all to use the chat box for any questions during the webinar. We will also open things up to a live Q&A following the presentation. We'll do our best to answer your questions along the way. If we aren't getting to anything, we will be sure to come back to it in our Q&A follow-up document, which will also include all of the lovely questions we get throughout. And this webinar is in partnership with the Tri-Cities today. So we do have a few folks joining from the various municipalities. We have Arzan Belisera, the Senior Sustainability and Energy Coordinator with the City of Port Moody. We have Ryan Voon, the Sustainability Program Specialist with the City of Coquitlam. And we have Scott Wamsley, the Environmental Coordinator with the City of Port Coquitlam. And they will each be sharing a handful of slides to highlight the various actions and policies the cities are undertaking. I'd also like to take just a brief moment here to acknowledge with respect the Coast and Strait Salish and WSÁNEĆ peoples on whose traditional unceded territory we are presenting today, and the Lekwungen, Songhees, Esquimalt, and WSÁNEĆ whose historical relationship with the land continue to this day. I encourage everyone joining this evening to take a moment to recognize the traditional lands you are joining us on today, as well as feel free to share that in the chat, and we can see where everyone is joining us from. And with that, I'll pass things off to Arzan with the City of Port Moody.
Thanks, Sam. And hi, everyone. Like Sam mentioned, my name is Arzan Belisera. I'm the Senior Sustainability and Energy Coordinator at the City of Port Moody. And I'd firstly like to thank everyone for joining and taking the time out of your busy lives to learn more about heat pumps. So Port Moody has a climate action plan that was adopted in the summer of 2020, outlining 54 actions that the city can take to become a carbon neutral and more climate resilient community by 2050. And as staff, we're implementing the plan. It's important that we focus on actions that can have the largest impact. And we do this by understanding where GHG emissions come from in our community. Our individual and collective daily activities result in releasing greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change, including transporting people and goods, heating and cooling buildings, heating hot water, and purchasing goods and materials that end up in the landfill. So our latest data that we have from 2018, when these activities resulted in over 109,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. And you can see from the pie chart that most of our community emissions are a result of vehicles, which make up around 49 to 53% of our emissions, followed closely by heating and cooling buildings at 46%. After we've taken a closer look, we found that of the 46% of emissions from buildings, most of these are from single-family homes, followed by commercial buildings. So there's three key reasons why buildings are an important sector to focus on as we tackle climate change. First being that buildings make up a significant portion of community greenhouse gas emissions. Second, that there are available and proven solutions today that can drastically reduce emissions in buildings. And we'll be hearing about some of those today. And then three, humans spend most of their time in buildings, whether it be at home, work, or in between, and they can have a significant impact on our health, happiness, and daily lives. So I'll just request that we go to the next slide, please. Port Moody has developed the Climate Ready Homes and Buildings Plan, which was adopted by Council last fall. And the plan outlines specific actions that the city, residents, and business owners can take to make homes and buildings in Port Moody climate ready. So what exactly is climate ready? So a climate ready home or building is one that has been designed or modified to meet low carbon and high energy efficiency standards and manage many of the risks related to climate change, such as heat-related illness, poor indoor air quality, or damage from flooding or windstorms. The screen shows a key target that the city of Port Moody is working towards, and you may be wondering what you as a resident can do to support this. So one of the important things to remember is that electric heating results in more than 90% reduction in greenhouse gases compared to natural gas heating due to BC's clean renewable hydroelectricity. And today represents an important opportunity for residents to learn about climate-friendly solutions that they can have control over, and that can have a major impact on GHG emissions. Go to the next slide, please. So you might have already done some research or explored heat pumps in the past and thought, man, these things are expensive. Well, we've got some good news. So Port Moody is proud to say that we will be offering top-ups on the already existing rebates provided by the province and the federal government. So we're happy to say that we're offering $350 for a heat pump and $350 for a heat pump water heater, as well as $500 for any electrical service upgrades that might be necessary as a result of these retrofits. So these are all on a first come, first served basis. And as Ryan can probably attest to, that these rebates are pretty popular and tend to get picked up pretty quick. So if you would like more information on these rebates or any other rebates that Port Moody is offering, please visit portmoody.ca/rebate. And with that, I will pass it over to Ryan. Thanks.
Thanks, Arzan. So hi, everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm a Sustainability Program Specialist at the City of Coquitlam, and thank you all for joining us today. I really just wanted to briefly share what the City of Coquitlam has been up to in regards to our sustainability plans and strategies and how heat pumps connect to sustainability in Coquitlam. So in 2022, the city's environmental sustainability plan was unanimously approved by council. And this plan really incorporates the city's environmental goals, objectives, and actions into one overarching strategy. So the ESP is broken down into 5 themes, as you can see here, with themes related to climate action in our built environment, which includes our homes and buildings. So as part of the environmental sustainability plan, the city updated our greenhouse gas reduction targets to be in line with international, federal, and provincial targets. So Coquitlam has targeted a 45% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and targeted to be carbon neutral by 2050. How do we get there? The next stage in Coquitlam's climate action journey is the development of a climate action plan, which will identify those key policy actions and needed to help the city meet those targets and help the community be resilient to climate change impacts. The city is embarking on this journey, and we're going to be engaging with the community sometime later this year. So please keep an eye out on the city's webpage for the latest updates. Sam, if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Very similar to Port Moody slide, this is a quick breakdown of the city's community greenhouse gas emissions. And you can see that residential buildings make up almost a quarter of the city's greenhouse gas emissions. One of the ways to reduce these emissions is to switch from fossil fuels, such as natural gas, to electricity, which is a low carbon energy source in BC. And electric heat pumps can directly support the reduction of these emissions. And one of the added benefits, as you'll hear today, is that they also have the ability to provide cooling as well as heating. And CleanBC will dive further into that later in the presentation. Finally, if we go to the next slide, also happy to announce, like Port Moody, residents in Coquitlam have the opportunity to access municipal top-up rebates from the city. So if you are living within the municipal boundaries of Coquitlam, you are also eligible for 350 heat pump top-up, 350 heat pump water heater top-up, and a $500 electric service upgrade top-up, which is in addition to the CleanBC rebates that you'll learn more about today. So if you want further details on these rebates, visit coquitlam.ca/energy upgrades for more information. And with that, I'll pass it over to Scott.
Hey everybody, as mentioned, my name is Scott Walmsley and I'm the environmental coordinator for the city of Port Coquitlam. My role with the city includes the implementation of the environmental strategic plan, as well as the development of the city's urban forest management plan. And I'm currently working on the development of the city's updated climate action plan, which is nearing its final stages. This new climate plan is intended to be a science-based plan focused on a low carbon resilience approach to climate action. We're looking to integrate both emissions reductions initiatives as well as ways we can adapt to climate change. The plan is designed to assess and respond to climate-related hazards and impacts on 5 major sectors that you see on your screen here: critical infrastructure, natural systems, health, well-being and culture, housing, and economic development. If we go to the next slide, what you'll see is that in Port Coquitlam, our buildings take up roughly a third of our overall emissions. And what's really interesting to note is that you can see a change from 2017 to 2018, showing that we were somewhat successful in achieving an emissions reduction at the building scale from the last time we did this work in 2007. Some of the things that impacted this reduction are improving building energy efficiency, predominantly the implementation of the BC step code. However, you can see that overall, our overall emissions increased a small amount during that time frame. That really sends the message that even though we're able to achieve some modest reductions, there's still a ways to go for us to be able to meet those science-based targets, which is why we're here today. Next slide, please. Finally, I want to reiterate that what we're trying to achieve here is to access part of the market that can focus on low carbon heating and cooling sources. You can see on your screen that 92% of the buildings that are currently heated, 92% of the buildings are currently heated by natural gas, and only 8% are heated by electric sources. Switching to electric heating in our residential buildings is a massive leverage point that we could access to be able to reduce emissions in our homes and buildings overall, and continue on that same trajectory of energy efficiency in our buildings and emissions reductions. And with that, I'll pass it back to Sam.
Thank you, Arzan, Ryan, and Scott. Alrighty, so moving forward to the agenda today, we do have a fair amount to talk about. So of course, I'll introduce heat pumps, why we're hearing so much about them, what is a heat pump, how they work. I'll introduce some of the different types, at least the most common types that we're seeing here in BC, as well as some common myths that we often hear about that might be concerns that we have with heat pumps that may not actually be true. A couple of tips to know before you buy a heat pump, including where to find a contractor, and we will of course be touching on rebates and grants towards the end of the presentation. So why do we care so much about heat pumps? Why are we seeing them everywhere? You know, we get a lot of ads on TV and on radio even. And one of the biggest reasons is, you know, we hear a lot about climate change, and we can see it a lot day to day as well. We have the heat dome from a few summers ago to the wildfire events throughout Canada in the last couple of months, and it is climate change and the extreme events such as the heat dome and wildfires that become more common, and it's more important to take a look at how our buildings and our homes in particular are contributing to climate change, as well as how we can adapt and become more resilient to the impacts of climate change going forward. Energy efficient upgrades are one of the best ways at achieving a more resilient and comfortable home as we do experience changes to our climate. Related to that, we do have the CleanBC roadmap to 2030. Apologies, the typo on the screen there. So this roadmap outlines the provincial government's plan to lower emissions by over 40% by 2030. And one of the primary targets or methods that they're addressing climate emission reduction, is through fossil fuel to heat pump conversion. So switching to heat pumps, and one of the reasons being is here in BC, we are fortunate to have some of the cleanest electricity. About 98% of it is actually hydropower. Hydropower is considered to be carbon neutral. Heat pumps run off of electricity, so that's also why they can be so climate friendly. Yet we also are still experiencing roughly 70% of our economy is powered by fossil fuels. So how do we start thinking about shifting away from fossil fuels towards clean energy such as electricity? Now, a lot of us think as well, electric vehicles have become so popular in the coming years. We seem to get very, very stressed or concerned about idling a gas-fueled vehicle for maybe a few minutes outside. Meanwhile, if you are using natural gas or propane to heat your home, you are essentially idling your home 24/7. So shifting to cleaner means of heat, like a heat pump, is almost it has a greater impact as well as something like switching from fossil fuel cars to electric cars. There are a bunch of benefits when it comes to heat pumps. It's also why they are such a topic of conversation. And to go through some of the benefits here, we have year-round comfort. Heat pumps will provide not only heating in the winter, but cooling in the summer as well. So they are two systems in one. You'll also get a climate-friendly home, like I've just shared the past few slides, shifting off of fossil fuels towards electricity. They're also the most energy efficient heating and cooling system available. You can also have a healthier home with some air filtration that heat pumps offer. And if you are making that switch from fossil fuel heating, you'll no longer be paying a carbon tax on your energy bill. Now let's dive into these in a little bit more detail. Starting with maximum efficiency. So heat pumps are the most energy efficient heating system available, typically about 3 times more efficient than something like a natural gas or a natural gas furnace or electric baseboards. And you might hear, oh, wow, 300%. How is that even possible? For comparison, electric baseboards are going to be about 100%, and your gas furnace generally up to about 97% efficient. And the key reason why heat pumps are able to be so energy efficient, 300% or more, is because they're not creating heat or generating heat. They're moving heat that already exists, and they're pumping it up to a higher temperature and releasing it inside your home. So if you look at the graphic here on the screen, we have heat that already exists in the outdoor ambient temperature, just hanging out outside, and we're going to add a little bit of electrical input to run the components of the system that allows it to pump that heat up to a higher temperature and release it inside your home. And that's how you're able to get those really high efficiencies when it comes to heating with a heat pump, because you're moving heat, you're not generating heat. We also have cost-effective. So heat pumps are the most cost-effective electric heating option. If you are making the switch from electric heat, baseboards, a furnace, you might see reductions of up to 50% on your energy bills. Again, that 100% to 300% in efficiency change, that's quite a jump. So you will see that reflect on your bills rather quickly. If you are making the switch from gas, homeowners often experience similar or lower bills when making that switch. Again, you also have a climate-friendly home, so they are going to be the most climate-friendly heating and cooling system here in BC. As I mentioned, BC electricity is about 98% hydropower, and hydropower is renewable. Taking a look at the image here, It's no surprise that oil heating has some fairly substantial greenhouse gas emissions associated to it. But even when looking at something like natural gas, there's still a large chunk of GHGs associated to burning that as a fuel source in your home. If you choose a heat pump, an electric heat pump, that's going to dramatically decrease your household emissions. You can also have the opportunity for better indoor air quality. So heat pumps do actually provide some air filtration as well as humidity control that can help rid your home of indoor pollutants, dust, pollen, and other allergens. Between some of the different types of systems that I'll share in a couple of slides, we have, options for some more basic filtration as well as higher end, high quality add-ons for filtration, depending on what it is you might be looking for. And again, we have cooling and dehumidification. So 2 systems in one. When you do install a heat pump, you get that added benefit of cooling in your home. So you can be better prepared for other extreme events, such as a heat dome, making sure that you and your loved ones, and including your pets, everyone can stay comfortable inside the home. And they also have that dehumidification option as well, if you are looking to reduce some indoor moisture in the home. Heat pumps also practice a really great set it and forget it practice. So really, unlike a gas furnace, you might adjust the temperature settings multiple times throughout the day. A heat pump is best left alone, setting it to your desired temperature and let it do its thing. It will operate most efficiently when you do practice the set it and forget it. And it makes it really easy when you don't have to worry about adjusting the temperature throughout the day. There's also the option for zonal heating, especially if you are looking at something called a ductless mini split heat pump. You can really customize the systems to suit your home. Zonal heating allows you to have different temperatures. If you perhaps have an in-law suite and they like it often a bit warmer than you might, or cooler even, then you do have that flexibility for different temperature zones with a heat pump. Now, to really wrap up all of these great benefits, heat pumps are the heating system for the future. Just like electric vehicles, we've seen this shift. More and more cars are shifting to be exclusively electric off of fossil fuel. We're seeing that shift in home heating as well, moving off of fossil fuel towards electric heat pumps. They really are quite simply the Tesla of the heating systems, if you will, making your home ready for the future. Now, of course, I've spoken on this just a little bit, but to dive into heat pumps in a bit more detail and how they work, you may be surprised that you have already a type of heat pump in your home, because your refrigerator is essentially a heat pump. Refrigerators work where the coils in the back of the fridge will help to remove the warm air inside your fridge and releasing it out the back. And that cycle continues, ensuring that the drinks and food inside your fridge stay nice and cold. And a heat pump is really no different. I'm sure we will often avoid looking behind our fridge or in front of the bottom of our fridge, depending on how old it is, to take a look, but you will see those coils, and they're often pushing out heat if you put your hand close to it. So that's that heat pump in your refrigerator working to remove the heat from inside the fridge. Now, to hear a little bit more about how heat pumps work, I'm going to pass things over to Dave at BC Hydro.
Hey, it's me, Dave, and this is a heat pump. It's an energy-efficient heating and cooling system you can install at home. How does it work? Here, let me show you. Your typical air source heat pump, like this mini split system, has two main components, an indoor and an outdoor unit, which are connected by a refrigerant line. To heat your home in the winter, the outdoor unit pulls heat from the air outside your home. Yes, believe it or not, even when it's cold, outside air still contains a certain amount of heat. The warm air then goes through a refrigerant coolant that is compressed to increase the temperature even more. This warm air is then pushed through to the home. In the summer, to cool your home, the process is reversed. The heat pump absorbs the warm air in your home and transfers it outside. The compressor circulates refrigerant to the indoor evaporator coil, and the refrigerant absorbs heat as it passes over the indoor air. The resulting cool and dehumidified air then gets blown back into the home. And that's how a heat pump works. The key here is that heat pumps don't generate heat, but instead they move it from one place to another, which is why heat pumps are so energy efficient. In fact, a heat pump can be up to 300% more efficient than electric baseboards. So if you already have electric heat, a heat pump can help you save on your energy bill. Less energy and more savings? I like. If you're switching from a fossil fuel-based heating source like a natural gas furnace, you'll be reducing your carbon footprint. It's kind of like going from a size 18 down to a size 2. You get the idea. It's an environmentally friendly option, especially here in BC where we're powered by water. Plus, with rebates from CleanBC and BC Hydro, there's more to save.
Thank you, Dave. Alrighty, well, we've already seen one type of heat pump from that video, but starting with another type of heat pump, we have the central ducted system. So these systems utilize ductwork connected to vents in your home to provide whole home heating and cooling. They're often a great option to replace a gas furnace, propane furnace, when you have that existing ductwork in your home. They will often be connected to a slightly larger outdoor unit connected with refrigerant lines to an indoor air handler. So that would be the sort of box, if you will, that replaces the furnace, often found in your mechanical room, and it would distribute that warm and cool air throughout your home all season long. And they're connected through a wall thermostat, just like a furnace, to be able to make those temperature adjustments. Now, the other type of system that we see quite often is a ductless mini split heat pump. These systems provide zonal heating and cooling through the use of indoor heads or units. You don't require any ductwork at all for this type of system. They're generally about 3/4 of the way or so up on a wall and providing that zonal heating. They can be a really great option if you have electric baseboards or maybe an old boiler and you don't have ducts for a central system. That doesn't mean you don't get to install a heat pump. These are a great option. They can be connected to one or multiple indoor heads. Based on the little graphic here on the screen, we have a somewhat smaller outdoor unit connected to refrigerant lines that go to the indoor head. If you have a few different heads, there might be a different line to that indoor unit. And each individual unit would be controlled through a remote. Now, to compare the two quickly, we do have, of course, both the central and the ductless options will provide air conditioning, where that ductless option is the one that will kind of truly give you that zonal heating option. Central systems are the only one that require ductwork, and they will both provide air filtration and dehumidification. So for those ideal installation scenarios for a central system, realistically, we have existing ductwork in the home. We're looking for that central heating and perhaps more effective air filtration with the options for high quality add-ons with a central option. In the case for ductless, we are looking for zonal heating, perhaps have an open concept layout or a home with no ducting, replacing electric baseboards or even a wood stove. Maybe you're interested in removing ductwork, perhaps making your basement suite a more livable space. You want to, add some ceiling height. That can be a great way to get rid of that ductwork and install a more high efficient heating and cooling system in your home as well. On to some of the different heat pump myths that we often hear about. The first one is that heat pumps are expensive to purchase. Now, before I dive into this table in a little bit more detail, I want to share. So this is pulled from a fuel switching case study from 2022. And it really does emphasize that there is a significant range in installation costs when it comes to both a high efficiency gas furnace and a central ducted heat pump. So we do have kind of the average range that you'll see, keeping in mind that cost is always going to range on a number of different factors, from brand to contractor to your home size and layout. So just something to keep in mind. But when we are looking at the screen here, we can see, generally speaking, the average cost of a high efficiency furnace is somewhere around $7,000. For a central ducted heat pump, you're looking at something around $18,000. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, that is a fairly large difference in cost. Now we look at available incentives. FortisBC does have a rebate of up to $1,000 if you are installing a new gas furnace. Now, if you are installing a heat pump, there are rebates and other incentives of up to $11,000, bringing that cost after rebates to be quite comparable between the two. Now, of course, a central ducted heat pump, or heat pumps in general, are going to provide air conditioning that a gas furnace wouldn't be able to. And you're going to substantially reduce your greenhouse gas emissions when choosing a heat pump over a gas furnace. Another myth is that heat pumps are noisy. And while the older systems definitely could make some noise, oh, apologies, not sure what happened there. Oh. Find my slide here. Everyone can hear me okay still? That was just a little tech hiccup. All good? Thanks, Ryan. Sorry about that. Alrighty, so as I was saying, heat pumps, a myth that we hear is that heat pumps are noisy. And while the older systems definitely could make some noise, the technology has come a long way. Modern heat pumps are typically around 50 to 60 decibels, with new ultra quiet models being even quieter than that. And you'd be surprised that many average household appliances are louder than a typical heat pump. Again, heat pumps are around 50 to 60. Here we have a dryer that's actually going to be a fair amount louder at 60 to 70 decibels. And even the sound of a toilet flushing is going to be quite a bit louder than that. Keeping in mind, when we do talk about the noise that's associated with the heat pump, most of that concern comes from the outdoor unit. So really, noise should not be a concern, as they are, of course, much quieter than in years past. For a bit more information on noise, as well as key considerations for siting or placing that outdoor unit, the City of Vancouver has a really great FAQ. It's linked in the slide that you'll receive a copy of following this webinar. But really, it just goes over some great tips and tricks on ways to use landscaping and other things like that to help deter some of that noise that may come from the outdoor unit. Moving on to myth number 3 is that heat pumps need a lot of maintenance. Well, really, just like any other heating system, they do require typical regular maintenance. So similar to a furnace, best practice is to schedule a servicing appointment every 1 to 2 years to make sure that the system is running smoothly. You can also do some general maintenance yourself, such as cleaning the filters, making sure the outdoor unit is clear of any debris. This will help to ensure the system can work better for you in the long run as well. Myth number 4 is that heat pumps are expensive to operate. Now, this one does come with a fair amount of text on the screen here. And to really break that down, homes with heat pumps can have comparable to lower operating costs to that of a natural gas home. And there are some key considerations around that. The first one is you will, of course, see changes to your hydro bill. If you're replacing electric heat to go to a heat pump, you will see a decrease in your electricity bills. You're going to a more efficient heating system. Now, if you are replacing something like a gas furnace to a heat pump, you will likely see an increase in your hydro bills. You're switching from gas as your primary heating to electricity as your primary heating. So you're likely to use more electricity, but this will be offset by a decrease in your fossil fuel consumption. Best ways to ensure that the heat pump will work and be efficient and friendly on your energy bills is to purchase a high efficiency system, as well as ensure that that system is installed properly with a quality contractor. And you can also do other home upgrades to make that system run more efficiently. So things like added insulation, high quality windows and doors, air sealing, draft proofing. This will all help to ensure your home will have lower energy bills. One of the last myths here we have is heat pumps don't work in cold weather. Now, again, the technology's come a long way, and we have these systems called cold climate heat pumps that are pretty incredible. They can operate in temperatures as low as -25 degrees Celsius. We have even seen these systems working in colder conditions than that, and they will have what's called a higher HSPF, or heating seasonal performance factor. That's the efficiency in the heating season in the wintertime. So they'll have higher efficiencies in the winter, able to maintain high efficiencies as they drop, as the temperature drops colder outside. And we see examples of these systems all throughout North America where we do experience colder temperatures than anything that we would perhaps experience in the Lower Mainland or on Vancouver Island. This photo here is taken from Colorado, and they do experience some pretty chilly winters. This particular photo was taken to highlight that they do, of course, work in -25 degrees. And there is also a rebate program in Nova Scotia. So they are promoting heat pumps quite heavily there as well. And they do have some pretty cold winters, ranging at about -18 degrees. So heat pumps absolutely can work in the winter season. A couple of things to keep in mind before you go ahead and purchase a heat pump. You do want to ensure you're working with a qualified installer. So this means, avoid any type of do-it-yourself installations or buying wholesale or online. Contractors will receive some pretty specific training with one or a couple brands. So they really do know and are familiar with these brands. So choose a qualified installer. Be sure to obtain multiple quotes, as I just mentioned. The contractors will have training on one or a few brands, and there are a handful of excellent brands and contractors out there. So you want to make sure you're getting a good variety of quotes before you make your decision. It's always best to practice the house as a system approach. This speaks to how your home works as a system. You change one component of the home, it will likely impact the other. The best example of this is ensuring that you handle air leakage, address insulation issues before purchasing a new heating system. This will make sure it works better. Oftentimes you can size a more effective system, perhaps even size a smaller system if you address a lot of air leakage in the home. And to really kind of understand all of these different things, it is recommended to start with an EnerGuide home evaluation. There is some extensive home modeling done to see how your home uses energy, as well as where improvements can be made. Energy evaluations are, of course, step number one at accessing the federal incentive program as well. And I'll get to those rebates and other incentives in just a few slides. To find heat pump contractors in your area, there is a search tool on the provincial website. So you do want to make sure that you are using this tool if you are planning on accessing any of those provincial rebates or the municipal top-ups that were highlighted earlier today. The link is on the bottom of the screen here, betterhomesbc.ca/find-a-contractor, and you would be required to work with one found on this list. So now what rebates are available if we are looking at installing a heat pump? Well, to learn more about all of the different offers, your best place to gather all this information would be the provincial website, which is betterhomesbc.ca. This resource is really your one-stop shop where you can learn about specific products, learn more about heat pumps, but also learn more about the various rebates and how they apply to your specific scenario. And if at any point you're ever confused or overwhelmed, there is the CleanBC Energy Coach service. This is a free service available to homeowners throughout BC, and they can provide direct support to help navigate the various rebates that are available. If you need help checking products before you go ahead with an install, any questions you might have, this is a great resource to use. Now on to the actual programs themselves. So here in BC, we have two kind of main programs that are available. We have the provincial CleanBC Better Homes program. This includes things like municipal top-ups where available. And then we also have the federal Canada Greener Homes grant. And this also includes the loan that exists through that program as well. Both of these programs are entirely separate with their own set of rules and requirements, but they are stackable. So you are able to access both of them together if you meet the requirements outlined for each of them. To first navigate what may be available for your specific home, I do recommend using the rebate search tool on the provincial website. It has a few different steps here to really narrow down what might be available. You start by your project type, whether it's a renovation or building a new home, followed by your specific location. And then you can go through and click what upgrades you are most interested in, or you can just show all as well if you're not too sure. Finally, you'll select your home's current primary heating system, whether that be electric baseboards or gas furnace. And you'll get a lovely list of results of what might be available to you. And you can go in and click on those individual pages to learn more about the specific rebates. To highlight the specific offers, the provincial program, the CleanBC program, has a few kind of subsets of different programs. So there's the Better Homes program, or the main rebate program. So this offers renovation rebates for homeowners across BC. They have rebates of up to $6,000 when installing a heat pump, plus those municipal top-ups where available. There is also an income qualified stream of the program. So this offers enhanced rebates for income qualified households. And those rebate amounts for a heat pump are up to $9,500. One of the additional programs is a low interest financing program. It's actually a zero interest program. So there's a zero interest $40,000 loan when you are replacing fossil fuel with a heat pump. This is an alternative to the regular kind of provincial rebates here. So it's the loan or the rebates. And there is also this kind of fun bonus offer called the group purchase rebate. This is up to $500 per home when replacing, again, fossil fuel heating with a heat pump. You can join your own, join an existing group or start your own group and promote it. The more people who join the group code and register and use the code in their application, the more you'll get in a rebate. So the larger the group, the larger the rebate. Now, everything through these provincial programs, you do not require an energy evaluation. Best practice is to always check the website for full eligibility details. Now, speaking more to heat pumps in particular, if you do have an electrically heated home, so electric furnace or electric baseboards, there are rebates through the province of up to $2,000. So $1,000 for a ductless mini split system, or $2,000 if you're installing a central ducted system. And the federal program offers up to $5,000. So this will depend a little bit on the specific system you choose to install, but up to, or pulling those together, you can access anywhere from $6,000 to $7,000 when stacking the two programs together. Now, for those fossil fuel heated homes, we do have some larger incentives. So the provincial program offers up to $6,000 if you are replacing fossil fuel heat with a heat pump. And the federal grants, again, are up to $5,000. So if you stack that all up together, you can get upwards of $11,000 across both programs when replacing fossil fuel heating with a heat pump. To speak to the federal program in a little bit more detail, there are also kind of three branches of that program. So we have the grant, the loan, and a somewhat newer offer, the oil to heat pump affordability program. The grant is up to $5,000 towards upgrades and up to $600 towards an EnerGuide home evaluation. Homeowners are required to register online, and you do have to complete a pre and post retrofit EnerGuide home evaluation to access this offer. So before you're doing any upgrades in the home, step one is to register and to get that pre-retrofit evaluation done. To access the federal program, the home does need to be your primary residence as the legal homeowner and would not be applicable to renters or rental homes. Again, the grant can stack up to 100% of the total cost to that of the provincial rebates. Now, the federal program also offers a zero interest loan of up to $40,000. This is in addition to the $5,000 grant, and it would be can be used towards a slew of the different upgrades that they offer incentives for, whether it's a heat pump, windows and doors, insulation, even solar. You can use that loan towards a handful of different upgrades. Again, the evaluation, still a requirement with a repayment period of the loan over 10 years. And finally, while oil perhaps a little less common in the lower mainland, this is a kind of separate offer for the federal program, offering a grant of up to $10,000 if you are replacing oil with a heat pump. This one offer does not require a home evaluation, does have a pre-registration, as you do have to have an income qualification to access this particular offer. Now, if you are interested in accessing those provincial rebates, the federal grant, the federal loan, there are some steps to make sure you can stack those up. First one, of course, is to start with that EnerGuide home evaluation. It, of course, is a requirement for the federal program, and you do want to get registered with the federal program as well. There is a search tool on the provincial website, very similar to that of the contractor search tool, where you can find an energy advisor to do that home evaluation. Be sure to call around and get a couple quotes before you choose your energy advisor, and as well as registering for the federal program. And if at any point you are overwhelmed, definitely reach out to the Energy Coach service as well. A few extra reminders here just towards the end. Be sure to review all of the requirements. Again, the provincial and federal program, you can stack them together, but they are their own program. The requirements are similar, but they will be a little bit different between the two. Always best to review those requirements. The provincial program does have a very firm 6-month deadline to apply for all of the rebates. So if you are doing a heat pump, if you're doing windows and doors, also insulation, the best practice is to apply as you complete each individual upgrade. Don't wait until the end. You might miss a deadline. Apply as you get your invoices for those provincial rebates. On the federal side of things, it is a little bit different. You start with your registration, your pre-retrofit evaluation, and then you'll complete all of your upgrades, and you don't apply until you have your follow-up evaluation, your post-retrofit evaluation, and then you apply for all of the grants at the end of your renovation process. So provincial, apply as you go. Federal, you wait until the end. And of course, Energy Coach service is a great place to gather more information. They are kind of specific supports for the provincial program, but would be able to guide you on the right track for those federal offers as well. And the Canada Greener Homes program does have their own hotline. With that, I will say thank you very much for taking an hour out of your evening to learn a little bit more about heat pumps. I hope you do know more than you did about an hour ago. And we will now open things up to a Q&A. So we can, turn cameras on, raise our hand or take ourselves off mute, and we'll stick around for, 10 minutes or so for some questions.
Yeah, for sure. I could, as I was typing a question for Susan, sorry, grab my camera. And in terms of like a townhome or any home with different